a love unconditional. It sings throughout the years. One love that washes over you. In the laughter and the tears, like the beauty from a mountaintop, as deep as the sea, as grand as the universe. A simple harmony. You are the strength when I'm weakest. You are the eyes I see with. When I fall, you lift me up. You are the friend that I count on. You give me hope to carry on. You fill my heart, you're in my soul. You are the greatest love. When I pray, you come to me. Your grace is all I need. I give you all I have to give. A love that feels so free. You are the strength when I'm weakest. You are the eyes I see with. When I fall, you lift me up. You are the friend that I count on. You're the hope that carry on. You fill my heart, you're in my soul. Yes, you are. You are the dream, I'm the dreamer. You're the song, I'm the singer. You're in the sun, the moon, the stars. Yeah. And as I give my life to you, and all the good that comes through you, you fill my heart, you're in my soul. The greatest love. The greatest love. The greatest love. The greatest love.
I would like to acknowledge the traditional ancestral territory of the Coast Salish, the Stillaguamish, Duwamish, and Suquamish Native tribes on whose land I stand. I acknowledge the Native people, past and present, and honor with gratitude the land itself and these tribes. Land acknowledgements are a traditional custom dating back centuries for many Native communities. For non-Indigenous communities, Land acknowledgement is a powerful way of showing respect and honoring the indigenous people of the land on which we work and live. Acknowledgement is a simple way of remembering and honoring indigenous histories. And I do this today because we've been exploring what oneness means and how, when I embody oneness, I embody the inherent diversity and inclusivity that the universe is, that this planet is. When I most deeply and passionately experience spirit, then the oneness that I am expresses as inclusivity. Today, my intention is that we make a community statement of inclusion, that we make a community statement, an affirmation that we are a part of a community that's building bridges, that's creating a world that works for everyone. So at the very end of this talk, I will be inviting you to stand up wherever you're at and to make this statement along with me, blessing ourselves and each other as we do it. I think it's really important because I want to create clarity and conviction in a way that is a combined effort where we can collectively stand together and make a statement. And we don't have to be here physically in person in order to have a collective impact in the world. I think what's really interesting is that quantum physics shows that we're interconnected. What quantum physics talks about is the quantum field, and the quantum field is the space, what we call space, actually resides non-space. So basically, what we see and get the impression of a space, there actually is no actual space. There's everything that's connected via energy. Even in quantum physics, what I love, they have this thing called quantum entanglement. So if I am impressed with something, like I have a family member or a friend or something that's in my life that is actively engaged in who I am, that person, the individual quanta, the things that are smaller than the actual atoms, are intertwined with my atoms. And so wherever they are on the planet, or maybe even outside the planet, I can be connected to them beyond time and space. And that's called quantum entanglement. It's like our energies entwine and they can never be separate no matter where we're at on the planet. Which is why when we pray for each other, prayer happens instantaneously, and it can affect people across the world. They've done all these studies and research papers on the effect of prayer. But for me, I know that it has to do with quantum physics and how we're all interconnected in the oneness that is. Ernest Holmes said that it seems to me that it is only as we view all life, everything from which we call great to which we call small, important or unimportant, it is only as we view the whole thing as one stupendous whole, whose body nature is with God and the soul, that we shall really enter into communion, into sympathetic oneness and rapport with the reality that is all about us. And I'm interested in that idea of communion. It's where community comes from, the root word, community, where we can come in union with each other. And we can do that in ways, even though we're here virtual together, we can still be in community. We can come in union together with each other. And we do, when we do this, we are stronger together. When we choose to consciously create community, where we come in union with each other, then we can create powerful impacts across the world. I was thinking about our theme today, which is Stronger Together, and I was thinking about wire rope. Now, you may not know, but wire rope begins with a single steel wire that is anywhere from 0.6 to 8 millimeters in diameter. So what happens is you get one of these very teeny tiny wires, and you get a whole bunch of them, and you twist them together. And then you might get a group of those, and then you twist those together. And then you might get one of those and you twist those together. And it is one of the most powerful, strong forces that you could ever create, is a steel wire. It's really interesting because bridges, if you look at suspension bridges, they're built with these wires. And they're made up these little tiny, teeny wires. One little itty bitty tiny wire combined with so many others creates this powerful force to be reckoned with. And I was thinking about this and how it causes different degrees of flexibility and strength depending on how you put them together. And I was thinking about how that's so important for us to acknowledge as we're here collectively together as a human creation, as a human force with each other. That just as those little different wires put together creates a strong and more versatile wire that expands the uses, that it's just like us, our inclusion of different cultures, our inclusion of different worlds, our inclusions of different individualized expressions of humanity, that when we include that and when we open ourselves to be available to connect with each other, we can create a more versatile and expanded view of our own personal life and our collective life together. And so I was thinking about it's a great metaphor, but how do we do this? How do we become stronger together? How do we interconnect our lives? Well, the first step one, is to connect with the source of your being. You can't run from your source. It's been there from the beginning, and it will be there forever. There is no end to the source of your being. And the key is for you and me to show up, to align with it. You know, Don was talking about at the beginning about how when he was having his meetings with his CSO, which is his chief spiritual officer, which I call God, Source, Sophia, the universe, the one. When he was meeting like this. He was imagining his day kind of cut off from it already. And instead of being that closed off sense, he had to become curious. Instead of being shut off from that flow, he had to open himself up. Because the truth is that the infinite universal spirit, the thing that created everything, the thing that created these beautiful plants and that created the people who imagined the stage and this podium and these lights and this building, and the thing that created the sky and the planets and the stars and the solar system, that divine wisdom is within each and every one of us. That creative essence, that creative urge, that brilliance is located inside of each and every one of us. And so the very essence of who we are is already present now in this very moment. And yet I find it interesting that a lot of people try and go in this world alone. They're like, if it's, if it's to be, it's up to me and I must do it alone. But we could no more pump our heart or fill our lungs without something greater than us doing the work. Why do we insist on doing this alone? Why do we ignore the very thing that's breathing us and allow ourselves to go without guidance or inspiration from the Creator? When will we allow ourselves to surrender to that thing which is breathing us, which moves and breathes and has its being as us? Ernest Holmes said, "The indwelling God is the greatest single factor in our whole lives. It means that there is nothing between us and God. There is no intermediary. There's no place to go to find God. God already exists in the midst of us. And if we would try and seek it elsewhere, it would be like God trying to hunt for itself. The more completely we are able to see God in everything, the more completely will the one God in all things respond to us. So we must be willing to see it in everything. The kindergarten teacher, there was a kindergarten teacher. She was observing her class, and she was looking at these children. They had a drawing assignment. And so she was looking at all the little kids and talking to them about their drawings and checking in with them. And she said, "Oh, what are you drawing?" And the little girl said, "Well, I'm drawing God." And the teacher said, "Well, but no one knows what God looks like." And the little girl said, "Well, they do now." If we could simply think like a child, if we could realize the only obstruction that we put between us and spirit are the ideas of separation, ideas that we place there by our own personal belief system, where we somehow went through life and believed that I am not a part of the most sacred and holy expression on earth. I am not sacred and valuable or valued. It's as if we discount the infinite creator that created us, that imagined itself, that loved itself so much that it birthed us as creation, as life itself. And we get to experience and be the fulfillment of the energy of that great and holy essence as our own lives. And yet we forget. And we think, oh, I have to do this all by myself. I have to be in this life alone. Well, if you are out there and you're sitting at home alone, I want you to remember that you're never alone. You cannot be separate from the infinite great creator. You cannot have any separation. And if you're feeling lonely or sad or upset about your own experience of life, I want to invite you, actually everybody, I want to invite you and give you some homework. I want you to bring out your inner child and I want you to start playing. So your homework is that you're going to do 2 drawings. The first drawing is you're going to draw your idea of God. What is God? What is spirit? What is that universal field? What is the quantum field? What is Allah or Muhammad? What is that to you? And the second job that you have is to draw a picture that depicts the obstacles from keeping you from experiencing oneness with that. What is the veil of separation that is keeping you from experiencing the essence of your nature? And when you're done drawing that thing that is keeping you, that is your obstruction, that is your idea of separation. Maybe it's the idea that I'm not enough, or maybe it's the idea that I don't deserve it, or I'm not a part of it. Whatever it is, when you draw it, I want you to take that drawing, look at it, and say, this is not who I am. And then I want you to tear it up and throw it in the trash or throw it in the fireplace and get rid of it. Because whenever I do something physical, a tangible outward expression of what's going on in my life, something shifts inside of me. That's why ritual is so important. So make it a ritual. Make this a ritual. First, bring out your inner child. Second, destroy and uncreate that idea of separation, and let it go. Truly, when you throw it away, say, I release this, I let it go. It is gone. And then look at that drawing of the Infinite One and allow it to be an expression of yourself. Angel Kyoto Williams said, without inner change, there can be no outer change. And without collective change, no change matters. See, I'm finding this time that we're going through a very interesting period in human history where it's both fascinating and challenging. There's a great deal of social upheaval. There's a great deal of political upheaval. But within that, I can see so many examples of unity and so many places where barriers are just melting away, where people had formerly had a sense of separation, and now they're creating this idea of community and collective unity together. And I don't know what it is. It might be the pandemic. It might be the time where we're finally ready to let go of all of our former ways of being and really embrace a new paradigm. I think that this time is the most important time. Well, it's the most important time because now is the most important moment. This day is the most important day. This day is the day of creation, and while everything that we've had and we've experienced is the effect of what was, this is the moment where we can create something new. And in order to create something new, we have to be a place of uplift. We have to be a place where we uplift each other. So that's step 2. Step 1 was to connect with our inner source. And step 2 is to, once we've connected with our inner source, is to uplift each other. I was reading a story from the Good News Network, one of my favorite websites to go to. I like to read news that really inspires me about humanity. And I can tell you about 10, 15 years ago, it was really hard to find good news. And I find it very interesting that good news is really popular now. People are seeking it out. A lot of people used to use the news to be, well, the news is typically the exception, but so the drama of it is the exception. But now the news is starting to be, with the Good News Network, is the model of who we are as humans. So in the Good News Network, there was an article about the derecho windstorm. It had winds of 100 miles per hour. It went through this Des Moines, Iowa neighborhood. And it knocked down 4 huge branches from these gigantic trees. And this man's house, his name is Ray, and he is paralyzed, a paralyzed man. And so his sisters came to his house and they realized that it was just covered with all of these gigantic branches. I mean, they were like 2 feet in diameter, like huge, huge branches. And, and they're like, oh my God, what are we going to do? And so one of them calls up a friend and is like, well, I guess we need a chainsaw. And the man came over and he looked at the house and he was like, you know what, you need more than a chainsaw. And so he started calling people up. And his name is Doug Applegate. And he called in 30 members of the Rough Riders football squad. And there, these 30 teenagers came in, got the chainsaws, and rolled off these big, huge logs, and rolled them all away, cut them all up into pieces. And within 3 hours, this man's land was cleared off. His fence was back up. Everything was put back into place. And one of the high school seniors said, that's just what people in Iowa do. We just help each other out. Now, what if that was our attitude about humanity? What if instead of saying, this is what we do in this place, we say, this is what we do because of who we are? What if we are the people that just help each other out? What if our purpose here is to uplift each other? Can you imagine? Can you imagine if we were all here to be a place of uplift no matter where we went? Mother Teresa said, your true character is most accurately measured by how you treat those who can do nothing for you. I liken it to the Christ. Now, the Christ, a lot of people think that whenever I say the Christ, that I'm talking about Jesus. Now, the Christ is a term, an idea that was around way before Jesus came into the picture. And Unity co-founder Charles Filmer describes the Christ as the perfect word or idea of God the embodiment of all divine ideas, which unfolds in true humanity as potential perfection. In other words, the Christ is our perfect God self just waiting to happen. I also think of it as as Gene Houston calls it, the entelechy, the thing that is the most highest possibility emerging through us now. It's just like the acorn has the oak tree contained within it. We have the Christ consciousness contained within us. We just need to tap into it and unfold it. It is already here. It is already contained within us. The potentiality of our highest self is already here, and our life is about the unfoldment of that potential so that we are fully expressing our divine self to the maximum for ourselves individually and for us collectively together. I was reading the book, The Mystical Eye, from Joel Goldsmith, and he said, he didn't say but I did. It's a breaking up of all sides of the old encrusted patterns of the idea that self-preservation is the first law of human nature. And I do believe that. I think that in ancient times, where we might have thought that our idea of being alive was only about self-preservation. Well, I think that we've evolved as a human species past that. But he said, we get caught in that old belief system, an ancient belief system that no longer serves us. And he said it's like a swamp. Deep in the forest, a swamp cut off from sunshine, from rain, from fresh air, from the moon, from the stars. It's dark, it's damp, it's miserable, and it abounds with all kinds of terrible creatures. And that is what happens to our human mind. That is what happens with our human mind, but it can be made new when the Christ has entered it, just as the swamp would be made new and fresh if the trees were cut away and the sun was allowed to shine through and permeate the land. In order to allow the Christ to come through, we must not see ourselves as a world full of separate persons. We have now become a circle of the Christhood, each sharing with the other that which has unfolded within them from the kingdom of God. Since we are a world of individuals, I'm receiving the grace of God, and that which I receive, I share with you. Lifting up the God in others draws them into the circle of light. And once we've lifted up the God in them, then they have entered the circle of Christhood. And then it's just a matter of time, circumstances, and experience before they will open their eyes and say, aha, where I was blind, I now see. Where I was dead, I am now alive and awake and aware. So that is what it's like to be a person of uplift. We connect to that expression within us, and then we reach out and uplift each other. Because that is what seeing the Christ and being the Christ does for another. Jesus was a great embodiment of the Christ. That's why people called him Jesus the Christ. But it wasn't that he's the only one to embody something like that. He even said, these things that I do, you shall do and more. And so I think it's an invitation for us to step into that idea of possibility that each and every one of us is anointed and ordained and baptized in the idea that we are the Christ emerging right here and now on the planet. In order for us to really participate in this, I invite you to do step 3, is to use your own consciousness to bless everything. I read an article about from a woman named Barbara Brown Taylor. And she said, anyone can ask and anyone can bless. Whether anyone has authorized you to do it or not, all I'm saying is that the world needs you to do this because there is a real shortage of people willing to kneel wherever they are and recognize the holiness. Holding it sometimes is bony, sometimes tender, but it's always a life-giving hand above their heads. That we are able to bless one another at all is evidence that we have been blessed, whether we can remember when or not. That we're willing to bless one another is a miracle enough to stagger the very stars. And she talks about blessing. She said the first way to really teach yourself on how to bless is to start with something, anything you'd like. For instance, you can pick up a stick off the ground and pay attention to the stick. Become aware of the stick. If you look at the stick long enough, you begin making it a character in your own story. It will begin to remind you of someone you know or a piece of furniture you saw at a craft co-op. There's nothing wrong with these associations except that they take you away from the stick and back to yourself. So instead of going back to yourself, try to see the stick as it is for its own blessing. What purpose did the stick serve? Did a bird sit on it? Did it bear leaves that sheltered the ground from the hottest summer rain? At the very least, the stick participated in the deep mystery of drawing water from the ground, defying the law of gravity to deliver moisture to its leaves. How does a stick do that? Smell the stick. This is no less than the artery of a tree that you're holding. Its tissue has come from the sun and from the earth. And put it back where you found it and bless it. You can do this blessing in anything, in anywhere, at any opportunity. Imagine you're going to the store and imagine the people who are walking in. Think about who they are, the mom with the 2-year-old child that's going crazy and just is causing chaos in the store. Bless her. Bless the child. Bless each and every person that you see as you're driving by. If you see a car accident, bless the responders. Bless the people whose day just got tossed in the air. Bless each person because you are a person who is filled with blessings. And we must use these blessings on each other in order to create a place where this world is filled with upliftment and love. I bet if you start throwing around blessings, you'll notice more blessings in your own life. Haven't you found that to be true, that wherever we put our attention, then that thing grows in our life? Haven't you found it to be true that whenever I start looking at the negative, I see more and more negative, and whenever I start looking at the blessings, I see more and more blessings? Now, all things are happening simultaneously, but we can be a contribution to whatever's happening in the world. And we can either, like Don said, approach the world like this, or we can approach the world like this. Who do you want to be? I, for one, want to be a place where everywhere I go, people's lights up because I see them. It's like an avatar. I'm like, I see you. I see you. I see who you are. I see your light. I see that you're a conscious participant on this planet. And even if you've forgotten who you are, I see you. Because I know that you are the love of the earth. You are the love of the infinite great creator. And I see that in you now. I'm here to remind you who you are. So in this time, we're going to do this ancient practice where you will be blessing yourself. I will be blessing myself. And as I bless myself, I am blessing you as well. We're going to do a sacred baptism, a covenant, which unifies the individual to the Christ, to the Godhead, to the God Spirit. This is a time where we bring seemingly disparate individual expressions unified into the one thing. And I know that I'm going to use this ritual that uses water and words to help you understand that you are in relationship with the divine, that you are a part of this divine revelation. I'd like you to take with me a sacred covenant. So the invitation is that you stand wherever you're at and you repeat after me the words. So go ahead, get ready, stand up. And before we do this together, I want to remind you of the 3 things that are your homework this week. The first is connect with the source of your being. The second is to use this time to uplift each other. And the third is to use your consciousness to bless everything. And now I'm taking this holy water. And at the end of this community statement, this community affirmation, I will bless myself. And I'll invite you to also touch your forehead in the same place that I touched mine. But collectively, let us say this together. I'll say one line and you repeat after me. We at Center for Spiritual Living are a community that celebrates diversity, fosters inclusion, champions inner work, and creates the space for brave, vulnerable conversations. We are a community that honors the unique emanation of God that each person embodies. We advocate with people for human rights and dignity for all. We are a community that blesses each other, sees holiness in all of life, a community that remains teachable. We are listeners so that we can grow together. We are here to understand that oneness does not mean sameness, and that we at Center for Spiritual Living know that the beloved community is revealed when we love ourselves and each other fully. And so now I take this holy water and I bless myself. And I know that the Christ within is awakened, renewed, and reminded of who I truly am, of who we truly are collectively, and that we are a blessing for the world, that this love emerges through us powerfully, profoundly, awakened anew. You may be seated. And so knowing right here and now that the infinite love and the power and the glory of the great Creator has now shifted each and every one of us and awoken ourselves, our bodies, our beingness, to a new awareness of consciousness on this planet, where we can create something that allows the creative energetic of Spirit to pour through us like love flowing over a mountain, touching each and every one of us, allowing that spaciousness to be connection, to be energy, to be an upliftment for each person, And those people who cried themselves to sleep last night, that they are surrounded by a blanket of love, that they know right now that they are never alone, that they are valued and valuable, that I am in a space where I am valued and valuable, where I am a place where God shows up to be the splendiferous explosion of light and love on this planet, a rainbow of possibility, a rainbow of creativity, where I see and feel and know the essence, the radiance, the being of light and love, and that it emerges through me and catapults all around me like fireworks in the sky, so that each and every person sees and feels and remembers who they truly are in this very moment. And as I claim that truth, I know that it is already done, that it is the great beloved joy of the infinite one to create this right here, right now, at this time, for such a time as this. And for that, I am grateful, and so it is.